The Wii U's legacy is complicated. The Wii U and the Nintendo 3DS will officially have its online services shut down on April 8th at 4 p.m. PDT, so I felt I would finally give my opinion on the complicated legacy of the Nintendo Wii U and my own personal history with the highlights and the low moments. Now, the lead up to the launch of the Wii U was incredibly rocky to say the least. After a botched E3 presentation in 2011, where Nintendo didn't effectively communicate that the Wii U was a brand new system and not a tablet controller for the Wii, pairing that with some questionable marketing that didn't seem to hit the right chord, lackluster first-party launch games, and a third-party lineup that consisted of old titles that could be found cheaper on competing systems. Hype for the Nintendo Wii U was high amongst core Nintendo fans, but the general public ultimately didn't care. The Wii U was released on November 18th, 2012 in North America, November 30th, 2012 in Europe and in Australia, and December 8th, 2012 in Japan, which I always felt was a little weird since Nintendo is still very much a Japanese-based entity. But besides that, the initial launch was successful. Nintendo sold around 3 million units by the end of December, but after that, sales fell off a cliff, and Nintendo officially went into panic mode. A Wii U Direct at the end of January showed off incredible games and had some good announcements like Xenoblade Chronicles X, which was just known as X at the time, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, which was known as Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. But it wasn't enough to turn the tide for the system. Sales slumped, software delays hit, and by the time the big games came out for the Wii U, the system was already too far in the hole to recover, and Nintendo fast-tracked their next system, the NX, which ultimately turned into Nintendo Switch, which is currently Nintendo's second best-selling system of all time, right behind the Nintendo DS, and could pass it up next year at some point. Things only got worse for the Wii U, as sales never really picked up too much in 2013. There was some solid game releases like The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD, The Wonderful 101, Pikmin 3, Super Mario 3D World, but those games didn't quite excite and motivate fans to rush out and buy a Nintendo Wii U. The complete lack of online play, despite having multiplayer in 3D World and Pikmin 3, was a real bummer for fans, as Wii U lacked many titles from Nintendo that had online play within the first year or so. Even launch titles like New Super Mario Bros. U and multiplayer-focused Nintendo Land didn't have online play, and I just remember that being a sticking point for many people back then in forums, on my website, and on YouTube. The only exception was a really weird version of Wii Sports with tickets and different type of things, and they never recaptured the Wii flair that Wii Sports gave to the system, just because it was so obtuse how they did Wii Sports on the Nintendo Wii U. In 2014, it was reported that former Nintendo president and CEO Satoru Iwata and other Nintendo executives took as high as a 50% pay cut due to the Wii U underperforming on the market, in addition to not having to lay off employees. This was pretty much rock bottom for the console side, as I've never seen Nintendo, when it comes to their main home console, doing so poorly that pay cuts were needed. Luckily, the 3DS picked up the slack, providing revenue and profits while the Wii U was floundering. And despite all the bad news and negative aspects surrounding the Wii U, 2014 was arguably the best year for the platform. Nintendo started strong with Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze, which was delayed from 2013, a game many fans of the franchise say is the best in the series due to its punishing but fair gameplay, fantastic music, and perfect controls. Mario Kart 8 launched in May 2014 to much hype and praise, raking in high critic reviews and providing a nice bump to Wii U sales worldwide. The game sold more than 1.2 million copies in its first 4 days and increased to nearly 3 million units within the end of the month. Nintendo also had a spectacular E3, showing off a host of great games like the future blockbuster Splatoon, Captain Toad Treasure Tracker, Bayonetta 2, which was freaking incredible, I might add. That also came with the first Bayonetta game, Hyrule Warriors, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, then of course the main attraction everybody was hyped about, The Legend of Zelda Wii U, or you guys all know it as The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. So 2014 was easily the best year for the Wii U. Great announcements and games, hype surrounding the system, and an overall general positive outlook. Nintendo's E3 in 2015, if you compare it to what happened in 2014, there was a clear shift of momentum, and many people knew everything was pretty much over at that point. We were gonna get the games that were coming out, and Nintendo was ready to move on. It felt like a funeral after that E3, especially when you compare it to how good their E3 was in 2014. It was very clear that Nintendo was preparing for their next system, and the Wii U didn't have much time left in it. Don't get me wrong, 2015, we did see the release of some great titles like Splatoon and Xenoblade Chronicles X, while 2016 had Pokken Tournament, The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD, and Tokyo Mirage Sessions, but the writing was already on the wall. And by October 2016, Nintendo officially announced the Nintendo Switch. As one last cool gesture for the Wii U, it did end up getting The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild as its final release alongside the Nintendo Switch version. But at that point, Nintendo fans had already forgotten about the Wii U and was ready to play the Nintendo Switch, as you could play the new Zelda game anywhere you want, in HD and not tethered to the gamepad near the system. I have a love-hate relationship with the Wii U. No doubt there were some spectacular games for the system. Despite questionable emulation and online, the Virtual Console was still there with plenty of games to pick from. Miiverse was Nintendo's take on Twitter that could be charming at times, and online play was free, which was cool, but there was definitely multiple issues that held the system back, from the painfully slow OS, game droughts, severe lack of RPGs and Japanese games, lack of third-party support in general, and not enough clever usage of the Wii U gamepad to truly justify including it into the base package. Because of the poor sales of the Wii U, Nintendo had to keep pumping time, money, and resources into the Nintendo 3DS to keep money coming in. Often at Nintendo Directs, a lot of the time would be dedicated to the 3DS despite the Wii U needing more attention and games. Despite all of this, Wii U did some incredible things. The eShop was well organized and fun to browse. And even though there were big game droughts, Wii U had a solid lineup of exclusives by late 2016. Right now, we have a number of younger children who grew up with the Wii U that love the system, and the revisionists who try to claim the system was the golden era for Nintendo, but it definitely wasn't. The lack of major and core new mainline franchises like Animal Crossing, Pokemon, Fire Emblem, and Metroid was a sore spot for many fans. Third-party Japanese devs ignored the system from nearly the beginning. Outside of Monster Hunter 3 Ultimate, there was barely any third-party JRPGs. It was outright terrible, especially considering the gamepad was perfect for maps, menus, navigation, and the such. Now I want to get into the best software, which I did touch on briefly, but I wanted to go over some of my favorites and what I felt was memorable about the system over the years with the games that I purchased and played, enjoyed, made content on. Let's first start off with Nintendo Land, as it was a launch title for the system. Now, I thought the game was very fun to play with friends, but the major issue was no online play, and they never added more games via DLC. It got kind of stale quickly, especially if you had nobody else to play with, which was me. My daughter hated Nintendo Land at that time, and I didn't have anybody else to play with, and there was no online play. So played it for a bit, then stopped playing. Now let's move on to New Super Mario Bros. U, which was also a launch title. It is better than most people give it credit for. There wasn't a massive change in style compared to the previous new Mario Bros. Games, but it was still well crafted and had a lot of challenge and content in there, which is why I think ultimately when it went over to the Switch and it got all the content put in there, it actually ended up selling incredibly well. The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD was brilliant on the gamepad. It truly improves the game a lot over the original. The updated visuals and audio was also nice. Pikmin 3 was great and easily one of the best looking games on the Wii U to show off the HD visuals. Plus, it was very quirky and a unique game that many people felt was fun to play at the time when it came out. The Wonderful 101 was one of my favorite games at the time. It was such a unique experience compared to other action games out there. The Unite Morphs with the gamepad felt a bit gimmicky, but it was still fun to do at the time. Plus, you can play with the standard Pro Controller as well. I also want to add that the Nintendo Wii U Pro Controller is absolutely one of the best controllers of all time. It's super lightweight, doesn't have many features, but it has 80 hours of battery life and it charges very fast. So I do have to give the Wii U props for constructing that Pro Controller. Super Mario 3D World just got better and better with each trailer they showed. It's a fantastic game with some awesome music, level design, and content. Just just unfortunate there wasn't online play at the time, although they did end up adding it with Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury on the Nintendo Switch, and there's questionable results with online play depending on the people's connections that you're playing with, and Bowser's Fury is incredible, so at least it led to something even bigger and better. Donkey Kong Country Tropical Freeze was so good, I beat it multiple times, one off stream for review, the other live stream. Great Kong powers, hard levels, high quality music, and easily some of the best boss battles in the franchise's history. Mario Kart 8 was the pinnacle in kart racing at the time it released, and it stood the test of time over all of these years. The graphics and tournament modes were mind-blowing back in 2014. Super Smash Bros. For Wii U. I felt it was great to play at the time. Had a huge roster of characters and allowed a ton of different control methods, and I'll never forget the time that they revealed that Cloud was coming to Super Smash Bros. For Wii U, and I absolutely lost it because nobody expected Cloud, a character that wasn't even in PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, was going to somehow make its way to a Nintendo Super Smash Bros. Game. Bayonetta 2 was a masterpiece. The controls, gameplay, crossover content, and buzz surrounding the game was just peak. It's still to this day my favorite action game of all time. Hyrule Warriors was just sick. Blasting away enemies with Sheik and other Zelda characters was kind of a dream that many Nintendo fans had before, and it felt super good to play. Splatoon's innovations shined through. It was a fresh new game from Nintendo that felt part Nickelodeon, part Super Soaker Fights back in the day as a kid. I can tell from when I first played it at E3 2014 that it was going to be a special and big franchise, and that's exactly what happened. Pokken Tournament to me was a revolution when it released back on the Wii U. It was such a unique blend of 2D fighting and 3D fighting, and being able to phase shift and knock people into the next one with some cool Pokemon, great music, fun online play, and pretty good amount of content for the base package of the game. So I loved Pokken Tournament, and I'm hoping one of these days we get a new one. The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess HD was another great classic Zelda game brought over that took advantage of the Wii U gamepad to really good results. I enjoyed it back when I played it on the GameCube and the Wii, and it's just as good, if not way better, here on the Nintendo Wii U. And Tokyo Mirage Sessions was not quite the game that everyone wanted because it didn't really look like SMT and Fire Emblem combined, but ultimately if you play it for just what it is, it's still a really good game, and many more people got to experience it when it was later ported over to the Nintendo Switch and realized, okay, this battle system's pretty good, the music's good as well, the graphics are solid, it's a good game, just not what people actually wanted when they first showed off Shin Megami Tensei Cross Fire Emblem. Now those were all the highlights, but I'm pretty sure there was a few games here and there that I could have talked about, but with all of that good, Nintendo software also hit some lows. Mario Party and Mario Tennis Ultra Smash, those were terrible on the Wii U. Mario Tennis Ultra Smash in particular didn't even allow you to play with friends online. There was online play, but you couldn't even play with friends. It was really bare bones. But overall, the legacy of the Wii U, as you can see, is very complicated. You've got some really high highs, and you've got a lot of lows. It's a system that I don't think was misunderstood like some people like to say it was. It was simply a system that had a concept, an idea, but it wasn't quite fully realized yet. It just didn't hit every single mark that it could, and ultimately it was a system that was somewhat of a stopgap. It was a system that helped, a launching pad for Nintendo's current system as of the time that I'm making this video with the Nintendo Switch. A lot of the ideas, certain things, games that were going to come got put over to the Nintendo Switch and ultimately ended up being a positive for the company. So even though the Nintendo Wii U was a failure overall, only selling 13.56 million units with only 103.60 million pieces of software sold and no singular title selling over 9 million units. For Nintendo, so many good things came out from the Wii U when it comes to the Switch itself, Splatoon, and other games that people didn't even get a chance to play but got to experience on the Nintendo Switch anywhere that they want. So despite the Wii U being Nintendo's worst selling main home console of all time, it still left a legacy that people are going to remember for a very long time. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please make sure you hit that like button, subscribe if you're someone new, click that notification bell, and check out my other Nintendo Switch RPG videos and more right here on screen. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you guys for the next one. Peace.